Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Where do you want me to see it? Okay.
All right, I'm assuming we're all ready to get this case underway.
Correct, Your Honor.
Excellent. My name is Senior Judge Woodman. That's right, I've been leveled up. It's like a Pokemon, just going to keep coming at you. And thank you, Mr. Cook, for bowing to me. I noticed no one in the prosecution did it. They did now.
I did earlier, Honor, as I entered.
Oh, very well. All right, we've got a case before us on the docket. I'd like the prosecution to come forth and state their name and what charges they have for me today.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Greg Jacobs. I'm a government attorney. I've got my co-counsel here today, Kyle Price. He's a legal trainee, but completely qualified anyway. We are representing the prosecution, which is the people of Los Santos, through the Los Santos Police Department.
Mm-hmm. And what are the charges?
Today, it'll be one charge of brandishing a weapon and one charge of a criminal possession of a Class A firearm.
Very good. And how many witnesses do you have for me?
For now, we're gonna have two, and may go to three, but
All right, very
usually
good.
two.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, defense, Mr. Cook. Obviously, I know who you are, but for the court, please pronounce your name and make sure you're speaking loudly. And your client has got two charges. How do they plead?
Thank you, Your Honor. Captain Cook, I'm second chaired by Emily Compson, and my client Tekki Soloman pleads not guilty.
Not guilty on both charges. Excellent. All right, no worries. How many witnesses do you have for me today? Or do you just have your own client?
Just my client, Your Honor. He'll be
All
giving
right.
his testimony.
Very good. Please take a seat. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, prosecution, if you don't mind starting with your opening statement, please.
2 seconds, clear my throat, Your Honor.
Very good.
Do I just say what happened?
Ladies and gentlemen of the court, the gallery, opposing counsel, I thank you for your time. Today is quite an interesting case. Officers attended to a 1090 call regarding an issue with ATMs. Upon arriving, they spotted the accused here brandishing his pistol. Upon approaching, he ran to a car. When being ordered out, he did comply, and he was detained at the scene with no problems, which we don't claim. Upon arriving back to the cells, he was read his rights and his charges. It was searched here, and he had a pistol.
My rights read to me, by the way.
Runner, just me. I can hear you, by the way, mate.
What was that? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, maybe it was the you've got shaken. Just shaken. I got thrown off because the accused didn't realize what voice mode he was on.
Oh, very good.
That's all good. I understand.
Accused meant to mutter something to me, Your Honor.
No, I understand. It's completely understandable. Upon being read the charges, initially he was willing to take a 20% reduction to the brandishing a firearm charge, which is what I've been told. then decided that it would be better to seek a legal counsel, which he is entitled to, before deciding on the plea agreement. He then received a lawyer. He was present today, and they decided that he was going to plead not guilty. It's a very simple case here, Your Honor. The case law is clear. The suspect actually has quite a considerable criminal record that has a violent past. It includes armed robbery, quite a violent crime. It's also the pistol seems to be one that is not marked with any sort of serial number and wouldn't been purchased or provided by the ammunition store. Due to the fact he's pleading not guilty, we seek the full sentence with no reduction, and we hope that you find him guilty on all counts based on the evidence provided today.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Cooks, you have the floor. Let's hear the defence's opening statement.
Thank you, Your Honor. Under the new case law, common law changes, Your Honor, my client was unaware he was not allowed to have his weapon out. Now, he's pleading not guilty under the assumption, under the belief that he was not aware the law had changed within the last 24 hours, and yesterday it was well within his right to be open and carrying. He has made large withdrawal transactions before with his friends where they have been attacked and had to defend themselves, and as was the case in this situation. Now, when the police approached them, he was very forthcoming with subduing and submitting. He did not in any way act hostile, and had he known the law had changed, he would not have had his weapon out. Unfortunately, within this situation, LSPD are looking to execute the full length of the law and come down as hard as they can to make an example of my client. My client has not been charged with any previous weapon offences, as far as he has informed me, and does in fact obtain and have his weapon licence. Now, as far as having an unserialised number on his pistol, there is no legislation or law that states he cannot buy a second-hand weapon that does not have these numbers attached, nor is there any legislation or law that states a weapon must be registered. And in this case, I don't think any basis that there is a legal grounds to say this weapon is legally owned, as it states clearly in the legislation, I believe, under the Charges Act. Sorry, just let me refresh my memory. Possession of a Class A weapon without a license is the definition of the charge that they're bringing forward on the court, which is not what my client has done. He's got an unserialized weapon, which again, I iterate, there is no law or legislation stating it must be registered. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Give me 1 minute. I'm just going to make a few notes here. It's interesting opening statement.
Your Honor, if you're talking, we can't hear you, by the way.
That's all right. I was just making some notes. Sorry. I thought I did say that I was making some notes. All right, prosecution, your first witness, please. You still can't hear me? All right, can you hear me now?
I can.
I can,
Oh,
Your Honor. I'm not
there we
sure
go.
you-
Oh,
phone
good.
through. You able to hear him?
I can hear him now.
Yeah. All right, very good.
It's
Sorry.
fine, Your Honor.
Just cleared my throat. I was just making some notes after Mr. Cook's opening statement. That was very good. All right, prosecution, your very first, your first witness, please.
We call Sergeant Haruto, Your Honor.
All right, Sergeant. Yeah, just make yourself next to the stand there. All right, Sergeant, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Excellent. Please proceed.
All right. So upon arrival to the scene, which was originally for an ATM being tampered with, we saw two suspects on the scene, one of which was not directly involved. However, we did see the individual behind us brandishing a firearm whilst on scene, actively in his hands. We approached with our firearms out, as there could have been a threat to life, and we got them to put their hands up. During this stage, we asked him if they would have anything they'll poke, stick, or stab us, to which he said he had a crowbar and a pistol on his person.
After the call that you said you were called to the ATM ATM robbery, I believe is what you phrase it as. How long after the call that was placed did you manage to arrive on scene?
Roughly a minute.
Do you see anyone scurrying away from the area?
Negative.
Other than the two individuals listed in the report's contents, was there anyone else on site? Oh, I mean, other than the other officers, of course.
Negative.
Were there any tread tracks, like a burnout where a getaway car or something like that?
Objection leading.
I'm trying to get to the point, Your
Uh,
Honor.
that is, I'm going to allow it. However, objection is noted. Just careful with your questions, Mr. Jacobs.
Yes, Your Honor. Rita, do you need me to reset the question?
Yeah, please.
Were there any like tread/tire marks left that you could see?
Negative.
Upon taking the individual back to the police station, what happened there?
Upon taking him back to the police station, pretty much we popped him in our vehicle. Actually, not our vehicle. We popped it in the other officers on scene, as we did not have a suitable vehicle for transport at the time. When we got to the station, I started getting really blurry vision, so I didn't see too much from there. However, one of the fellow officers behind me did.
Who was that fellow officer?
That would be Matthew Graves.
Was any identity/like check of the criminal background done on the suspect?
Yes, there was.
And what did that reveal?
It revealed that they had a history of armed robbery and burglary.
Was there anything else regarding licenses, possession, etc.?
The individual did have a Class A firearm license on him as well.
Okay. Mr. Haru, do you have any experience with dealing with the charges with armed robbery and burglary, like you specified?
Yes.
And are those incidents where you've done it generally a violent incident?
Not all the time.
Could you elaborate on what that exactly means?
So sometimes it can end up being a hostile pursuit, where they get in their car, instantly take off, and then shots fired come from the vehicle.
Okay. And what sort of offenders that do the shots fired and the more aggressive tactic? What sort of record do they have? Is it like a one-off?
Objection is still leading, Your Honor.
I apologize. I'll rephrase, Your Honor.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you. Please rephrase.
Yeah, sure. I didn't think of it. The more violent offenders in these matters, what sort of criminal background do they usually have?
They have a past history of armed robbery, burglary, and weapon-related offences.
Greg, if you're talking, mate, we can't hear you.
Did you hear? Oh, are you able to elaborate on any information regarding the pistol that was entered into the evidence box?
The pistol that was entered into the evidence locker did not contain a serial on it.
Have you any past experiences with guns that don't contain a serial number?
Usually guns that don't contain a serial number, we tend to find from people who are robbing houses, banks, ATMs, sort of anything involved with wanting to persuade someone into sort of complying.
Okay. What sort of criminals would usually possess? So, what sort of criminals do you usually find these on serial number
Objection
guns?
asked and answered.
It's not asked and answered,
It's
Your Honor.
literally the same question.
I will allow it.
Reworded, Your Honor.
I will allow it. The objection is most definitely noted. Mr. Jacobs, just think about that in the future.
Okay, Your Honor. If you do you need me to restate it, Mr.
Please, yes, thank you.
What sort of criminals do you usually find these like these guns that don't have a serial number on them?
People who tend to have a history of robbery.
Moment to confer with my co-counsel, Your Honor.
Yes, of
Mr.
course.
Mayor.
Not a problem, yes.
I have one. Am I allowed to ask now?
Passing over to my co-counsel for questioning, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Russ, Mr.
Uh,
Price, continue.
No problem. Okay, just one question from me, Your Honor. From me towards the sergeant. On a rough estimate, would you say that within these crimes that happen in Los Santos, 9 times out of 10 it contains an unregistered firearm?
Yes.
Okay, that's my only question, Your Honor.
Objection, that was leading, Your Honor. He is statistic.
That is leading correct, sustained. Please rephrase that question if you can.
If you don't, I've got to
Object-
rephrase it.
Oh, okay. So my co-counsel will rephrase that for me, Your Honor.
Would you say, in your opinion, as a police officer serving the streets of Los Santos, that unregistered firearms are quite a systemic issue?
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time, Sergeant. That's my only question.
Prosecution rests on this witness, Your
All
Honor.
right, thank you. Defense, you may now question the sergeant. Come back.
Come back, Sergeant. You still got to be
Oh,
cross-examined.
okay.
Yeah,
Hold
you
on,
get
hold on.
cross-examined now.
All right.
This is the hot seat. Let's go.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor. Just again for the court and myself, could you please reintroduce yourself?
My name is Sergeant Haruto Tamioka with the Los Santos Police Department.
Tommy Oko, did you say?
Tamioka, yes.
All right, Mr. Tamioka. Can you just inform the court when you were notified of the new common law change?
Objection, relevance.
Relevance is in relation to the brandishing firearm charge.
I,
Your
I
Honor?
believe this is relevant to
Well,
the
the charges
defense's.
existed before this case law. It doesn't. It's not relevant.
That is true. It did exist. However, I do want to hear the answer.
There's definition and spirit of the law, Your Honor. And
Yes, that's beautiful.
so
That's excellent. Thank
nothing
you.
to play here.
All right. So police wide was notified at roughly 7 p.m. Command was notified at roughly 6 p.m.
So this was less than 3 hours ago.
Objection, leading.
Yes, sustained.
Sorry.
Please rephrase.
Could you give us a time frame as from then and now?
Objection. What's the relevance of this?
It's
Rephrase
could be
it.
could be
He
relevant.
said the time that was specified. The council knows what time it is.
All right, Mr. Jacobs. Thank you. All right,
I just rephrased my question, Your Honor.
that's it. Thank you, Mr. Cooked.
Could you please answer the question, Mr. Tomioka?
What was that? Sorry?
Could you please answer the question?
Sorry, could you restate the question?
What's the time frame between when those charges were outlaid and now?
I'd say roughly hour and a half ago.
Hour and a half ago. Okay, thank you. And how soon did you pick up my client after those charges?
After
Objection. That was already asked and answered in the previous question, Your Honor.
No, it wasn't. The time frame was between then and now. The question is now
it's pretty
between
much the
then
same
and
question,
the rest
Your
of my
Honor.
client.
I wish to hear it. The objection is noted. Let's continue, please. I'd like to hear the answer to that question.
So yeah, I'll ask the question again. How long from when you issued those new laws to when my client was arrested?
So you're asking how long ago it was that we charged the individual?
No. So from when you first found out about the new law change to the
Yep.
time of when you actually arrested and charged my client. Not now in court, but when you arrested and charged my client.
I'd say about an hour.
Now, there was no consideration or leeway given for a grace period.
Objection, relevance.
Overruled.
The charge already existed.
Overruled.
Sorry, could you say that again?
Was there no consideration given to a grace period of the new law enacted?
Yes, there was.
And what was that consideration?
Roughly 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. To your best understanding, what was the definition of brandishing a firearm yesterday?
Objection. He's not a professional in the law, Your Honor.
No, but
Not
he does
apply
he
to us.
does apply the law in a daily basis, so I'm going to
He said the
overrule that
definition.
objection.
Yes,
It's
Your Honor, I'm
correct.
asking for his professional definition.
My definition of brandishing a firearm was holding out a firearm on your person at any point in time where you could visibly see the firearm from any perspective.
From any perspective. Just to confirm, in the law, it was written in a threatening manner.
Objection, Your Honor.
This is
He can't
this is
testify to
this
that.
is line of questioning because that is part of the charges.
But how can he speak to the tone of something he didn't write?
It's overridden. The sergeant must answer that question.
So if you could just read the definition of brandishing a weapon, please.
What was that? Sorry.
Read the definition of brandishing a weapon. The charge.
The charge of brandishing a firearm.
Yes.
What was the definition of it?
Yes. Can you recite that definition from the MDT? That was
Give me-
essentially what my question asked.
The definition is public knowledge, Your Honor. I don't see what the relevance of this is.
Because it's making a statement in court. Your objection has been overruled. And Mr. Jacobs, I think you need to reread the DOJ section where it says judges will get agitated if you continue to object continuously.
All right. So, brandishing a firearm, displaying or brandishing a firearm in a way that a reasonable person would interpret as aggressive, threatening, or hostile.
Thank you. Now, under the new change in common law that was released an hour and a half ago, what is the new definition of brandishing a weapon?
A person who holds a gun in their hand will be taken to be brandishing a weapon regardless of whether they are aiming that weapon or not. It will be assumed that a person who seeks to draw their weapon is doing so with the intention to shoot.
Understood. So, by your terms, there was a 10-minute grace period for that new law enacted.
Asked and
Your
answered,
Honor.
Your Honor.
Yes,
was a
that is
rhetorical
correct.
question.
It is. Well, okay, continue.
Your Honor, I just want it noted, highlighted and noted that 10-minute grace period.
As noted.
Under the new law and legislation, under the new common law, was there any discussion with the PD about a grace period?
Negative.
Negative. Okay. Now, as far as your reasonable suspicion and probable cause for the ATM warrant, did you have any?
Yes, we did have the probable cause as the individual was up against an ATM at the time. When we found him on scene, the MDT does have evidence of this in the locker, where the individual was also brandishing the firearm in his hand.
Okay. Now, was he brandishing the firearm under the new definition or the old definition?
Both.
Objection leading.
Yes, sustained.
Your Honor, I'd like it noted in the that in the MDT, the evidence provided shows that he was holding the weapon down and not pointing at anyone threateningly.
As noted, yes, I can see that.
Just for the probable cause for the armed robbery, was any of that acted on, and was either suspects detained for that?
Objection, Allison answered in the report. It's very clear.
I'd like the sergeant to answer, please. I'd like the sergeant to answer that one, please.
All right, what was the question? Sorry.
Was the probable cause enacted for the ATM robbery on either suspect at the scene?
Yes, it was enacted on both.
Okay, can you just describe what you did in relation to acting on that probable cause?
Allison answered, Your Honor.
Yes, I'll sustain that one. Move on, please, Mr. Cooked.
Thank you. No, that's fine, Your Honor. To the best of your knowledge, is there any legislation or law regarding the registration of a firearm?
Not a legal expert, Your Honor. Objection, or same as before.
I would allow it. The objection has been noted, though, because this is actually a very important bit of information.
To my knowledge, there is no legislation that states a weapon must be registered.
Okay, thank you. How often do you encounter registered firearms in the course of duty?
Would you like a percent?
Uh, yeah, what the best of your knowledge and your professional opinion on what you experience.
Your Honor, this is opening speculation.
How would you describe it? Percentage wise would be probably.
Your Honor, objection, speculation.
Yes, sustained.
Your Honor, it's requesting a professional opinion based on his involvement in his line of work. I understand the objection and the sustain, but
It's a very good point. Mr. Jacobs, anything on that one?
He said specifically how often, and that's it's. I'll be happy if you rephrase the question, but it seems to have asked for statistics.
Your Honor, he answered the exact same question in his last line of questioning, but the only difference was it was for unregistered weapons.
He didn't give a specific number, Your Honor. He said like a regular. If he rephrased the question, I got no problem. It was just seemed like it was
just rephrase that question, Mr. Cook. We'll see where that goes.
Understood, Your Honor. In comparison to unregistered weapons, how often do you come across registered weapons?
Not very often.
Not very often. Okay. But you do come across them, correct?
Objection. Yes. Asked and answered.
Okay.
Just I'll allow just this clarification.
In relation to the crimes for those weapons, what usually are those crimes involved in?
Armed robbery, sort of anything where there's a hostage situation, like a bank and stuff like that.
Mr. Cook, you're coming up to your time limit.
Okay, no, that's all good, I just confer with my co-bench quickly. No further questions.
All right, thank you, Sergeant. You may return.
Your Honor, we put a request that there be ability to redirect if the court grants it.
I'll allow it. Continue.
How long did you want me to limit myself to, Your Honor?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Mr. Rudo, you were previously testified about your knowledge of the legislation. Are you a legal expert?
I'm not a legal expert, however, I do uphold the law to the best of my knowledge.
Uphold the law, does that involve reading intensely through legislation in the MDT?
Negative.
In regards to the earlier line of questioning, if you can recall, when we were talking about, when you talked about the violent offenders, armed robbery, is that you know where I'm talking here?
Yep.
Regarding that, how often do those sort of criminals reoffend?
Quite often.
And is that usually with the same sort of crime, or is it a different crime?
Usually the same sort of crime.
Yeah, I do have one question. Officer, when you see a firearm in public, even just being held, would you feel intimidated?
Yes.
Thank you. That's my only question.
Yeah. Officer, regarding response times with engaging in a situation, how quickly does do you as an officer need to respond if an individual points a firearm at you?
Quite quickly.
When a firearm is entered into a scene, does that usually escalate the situation?
Yes, it does.
Coming up to time.
Yep, Your Honor. We rest on this witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cook, I'll give you the same 3 minutes. Do you need it?
2 questions, Your Honor.
Yes.
Did my client ever point his weapon at you at all?
Asked and answered, Your Honor.
I'll allow it.
Sorry, could you please re-answer that question?
What was that, sorry?
Did my client ever point his weapon at you?
Negative.
Negative, okay. Was he compliant and responsive the entire time?
This was asked and answered as earlier as well, Your Honor.
I'll allow it.
Negative. I believe that actually contradicts what he said earlier, Your Honor, and what was said in the opening statement. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. All right, thank you, Sergeant. All right, prosecution, your next witness, please.
Your Honor, the prosecution calls Matthew Graves of the LSPD.
Officer Graves, do you swear to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Excellent. Thank you. You may proceed.
Just for the record, Mr. Graves, what is your current rank and time you've spent so far in the LSPD?
As of this point, I am now officially a solo cadet as of an hour ago. So during this arrest, I was a solo cadet.
And then the bit about how long you've been serving in the LSPD?
It will be 3 days now.
During your brief time joining the city, what has been your experience with individuals with firearms?
I'd say, might give a percentage here.
No, it's just like, is it a good? It's just like, yeah, it's not percentage.
Quite high is my
Yeah,
is my relation with gun incidents.
Okay. And out of those gun incidents, how many of those are unlicensed firearms, roughly?
About 30% are unlicensed.
Okay.
I believe it.
Have you dealt with have you had any experience with violent criminals, as previously mentioned by Sergeant Haruto?
Yes.
And when you generally have interactions with them, have you seen that they reoffend?
Yes.
So 3 days ago, that means you recently were inducted, correct?
That is correct.
During induction and your training period, what was explained to you about unlicensed firearms that didn't have a serial number with them?
During training, I was advised that unlicensed firearms, whether scratched or not, are illegal. That all firearms that are registered, whether they purchased from ammunition, come with a serial number and that are recorded correctly.
Sorry, was that legal or illegal?
Legal firearms attended are purchased, usually come with a serial number and are filed.
And the other one, sorry, you said earlier, just make sure you said legal or
I
illegal.
said illegal firearms
Yeah, okay, just make sure.
been scratched.
Cool, easy. Your Honor, I'm asking what he was told in his training. Or did you not hear, Mr. Cook?
Sorry, I didn't hear that one.
Oh. You're a bit quiet, Mr. Cook, to mind as well.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying objection. There's no legal definition of an illegal firearm.
And Your Honor, I was asking what he was told in his training, not what the legal definition is.
I'll actually allow it. The question itself's interesting, along with like information the police tell each other, which I believe might be relevant for this case. But the objection is most definitely noted.
Thank you, Your Honor.
During your training period, did you study the charges? Like the charge sheet?
Yes.
To the best of your knowledge, when was the brandishing a firearm charge added to the charge sheet?
When I was started, I never did any brandishing charges, but today I did know it was, and it was brought up to me immediately upon my clock on.
So was that? Did you not see it previously, or was that you hadn't had the chance to?
Sorry, I'll let you finish your question.
Oh, that's the question. You said was it you hadn't had the chance to, or you didn't see it?
I had never done with a charging of the brandishing, so I had never seen it.
When you arrived, say, who was the senior officer in your unit?
It'll be Sergeant Imahara Tamioko.
This new case law was brought up. Was there any instruction for targeting individuals that were brandishing a firearm?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Was the senior officer in your unit, or even did he ever instruct you that now, due to this new case law, that you guys were going to be targeting people with for the brandishing of firearm charge?
No.
Just a moment to check my co-counsel, Your Honor.
Yeah, you're right.
No questions. Oh, sorry. I do have one question for the officer. Same question as I asked the sergeant. When you see a firearm and it's being held by a individual within Los Santos, do you feel intimidated?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, does the
I'll have
prosecution...
one
Oh,
more question, Your Honor, and then
Yeah, okay.
I'll rest. Apologies. Officer, what would you say? Would you say that you're familiar with all charges of the MDT, or only the ones that you've interacted with?
The ones I've interacted with, I'm familiar with, but there's a lot in there to go through.
And is that something that you're actively working on?
Actively, yes, as an officer.
Yeah, defense rests on this witness for the moment, Your Honor.
Right, thank you.
Prosecution, I meant, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Cook, it is now your turn to cross-examine the prosecution's witness.
Thank you, Ian. Just my first question. How long were you on shift before arresting my client?
Relevance, Your Honor, objection?
It's relevant. I'll allow it. Let's continue.
Probably 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay. And you're informed of this law straight away. Did at any point my client point his weapon at you?
This was
or
asked and
your,
answered earlier, Your Honor.
Overruled. I'd like to hear what he has to say.
Negative. The firearm wasn't pointed at us.
Okay, wasn't pointed at you. Did you understand the change in definition?
Oh, my goodness. That was a big-ass headache.
Apologies.
You shouldn't apologise. I should apologise.
No, I apologize because I know I'm giving you a headache.
Oh,
Just by looking at me.
Yeah, as
Oh.
you popped, Your Honor, I had an objection, but I can't remember also what question it was. So
I can't remember what question we're up to.
I'll just retract the objection.
Mr. Cooked, your last question, honestly, I popped right in the middle of it, so if you don't mind repeating it.
Sorry, my question was, in your professional understanding, what were those definition changes?
Oh yeah, objection, Your Honor. He's not an expert on the law.
Yes.
He's just a cadet.
I would like to actually, I'll note the objection, but I'd like to hear what he has to say on this subject.
If I may, the question is, you want my opinion on what brandishing is?
No. So there was the definition of brandishing a weapon yesterday under the charge, and then there's the new case law that was enacted just prior to you arresting my client. That is the new definition of brandishing a weapon.
Actually, as Your Honor, as questioning when he stated that he was not aware of the brandishing firearm charge until today, so therefore he would not have any knowledge of the previous definition.
All right,
Your
sustained.
Honor, I wish for the witness to testify.
How can he testify to something he doesn't know?
Well, I'm sure he did read the charge, so I'm sure he knows about it.
Testify that he wasn't aware of the brandishing firearm charge until
He
today.
can still give his understanding.
Not
of
only
what
that, Your Honor, but
definition is.
unfortunately, I believe that the cadet would be acting under the instruction of a senior officer, regardless of the fact.
This is
Your Honor.
correct. Therefore, I wish to hear what the cadet has to say.
Thank you,
So,
Your Honor.
I'll allow it, and I want to hear it. No more objections about this particular item.
All right. So yes, there was a lot of charges that I did not know the exact definition of brandishing prior to today. As soon as I was updated that the brandishing had been updated, it was my first thing I did was read it. So my knowledge is the current standing of what brandishing is.
Okay, are you able to recite that? Because that was the question.
Yes, it is, again, a person who holds a gun in their hand will be taken to be brandishing a weapon regardless of whether they are aiming the weapon or not. It will be assumed that a person who seeks to draw their weapon is doing so with the intention to shoot.
Okay, thank you. Now, you stated 3 hours before you come on shift. I don't think I have many more questions, Your Honor. He's gotten sort of to the points I've wanted to. My final question would be, was my client compliant and responsive the entire time?
Objection, Your Honor. This was asked and answered in the previous witness and actually earlier in the questioning.
Yeah,
That is
so this
correct.
a
That
different
is sustained.
This is a different witness testimony, Your Honor.
I'm almost certainly asked in the witness first few questions.
I have not asked this witness this question yet.
All right, I'll allow it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That is correct. He was compliant.
All right, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Cooked. All right, officer, thank you. You may stand down.
Thank you.
Prosecution, do you have any more witnesses?
Oh, sorry, mate.
Prosecution rests, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Cooked, your witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Call my client. Just up to the middle stand here, where the officers. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick statement to you, sir. You are aware that by testifying today, you may incriminate yourself by any questions asked by the prosecution.
Yes.
All right, very good. And with that, do you promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. Cooked. It is your line of questioning.
Thank you. Just for everyone else in the courtroom and out the back, could you please introduce yourself?
My name is Tekki Soloman.
Thank you, Tekki. And what do you do for?
I do a vast array of jobs. You know, on the side, I tow trucks, tow cars, and then fish every now and then. And then I also help supply night kids with their stock.
Okay, cool. Could you just explain to us what you were doing this evening?
I was just hanging out with a friend after a day of fishing.
Yep.
And,
What were you doing at the ATM?
we were getting cash so we could go to Pearl Harbor. And then he was also withdrawing a large amount of cash so we could buy a car.
Okay, no worries. And what were you doing while he was withdrawing that cash?
I was just standing by the vehicle with my firearm present, just in the rare case that we do get held up.
Is this something that has happened to you before?
Many times.
Many times. Okay. And to your understanding, why did you have that firearm out?
To protect myself and also my friend.
Okay. At any time were you pointing that weapon in a threatening manner to somebody?
No.
No. From when the police arrived and you were arrested, did it at any time you disregard or ignore their instruction?
No.
No. Did at any time you refuse to comply to a search or what was on your person?
Your Honor, those
I was-
questions are kind of linked in the same.
I'll allow it, but I'll note that objection. I'm assuming
was
that's what it
completely
was. It was an objection,
Sorry, Your
yes?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, all right.
I understand, yep.
Am I good to answer?
Yeah.
I was completely compliant the entire time.
Okay, no worries. Are you licensed to own your pistol?
Yes.
Okay. Is that your only weapon?
No.
No. Where do you purchase your weapons?
So I can purchase this. Sorry. I purchased them off Yellow Pages. And then also from the gun shop.
Have you at any time used your weapon outside of a firing range?
I haven't.
All right. I don't think I have any further questions right now, Your Honor. I'll allow cross-examination.
Thank you, Ms. Cooked. Mr. Jacobs, the defence is now your witness to cross-examine.
Tekki, wasn't it? Just make sure I'm.
Yes, sir.
Yep. You were just making sure I've got the understanding here. You were with your mates at your mate was going to the ATM and you were there, chilling out next to a car, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anyone else present in your vicinity?
There was a person inside the clothes shop.
And was he there the entire time until you left?
Yes.
Was the individual in the clothing shop there? Did he arrive before or after? Like before you showed up, or did he show up while you were already there?
He was already there.
You say, just make sure I'm hearing correctly. When you say you purchased guns from Yellow Pages and the gun store. What gun store?
What's that? Sorry.
You said like you purchased your weapon from Yellow Pages and gun stores. That's what you said, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What gun stores does
Your
that mean?
Honor.
I'm just he was asking clarification, Your Honor.
Yes, I'll
the
allow
ones
it.
that are in city. There's a vast array of them.
Like I'm asking like what store? Like what is it?
The one next to the PDM.
Would
I don't know
you
if I'm
could you
understanding you
could you
correct.
recall the brand or what these chain of shops it's called?
No. It's the one next to PDM. Ammunition something.
I like that. Highlight on the record that he said that the gun store he purchased from is ammunition, a legal shop. Your Honor.
Noted.
Objection, Your Honor. My client owns multiple firearms and never specified where he brought this particular firearm.
Didn't specify that, Your Honor. I just meant that he's purchased from this shop before.
Yes, I've noted that. Thank you.
Going back to that where you were back at the ATM. Did you see any weapon or anything on this other individual? Like you said, inside a store, was it?
Yep. I didn't see any firearm, any weapon. You know, he was inside the shop. I was outside.
Could I ask you why you choose to purchase firearms, some firearms, not this specific one, not questioning the specific one, from Yellow Pages rather than the gun store?
It's cheaper.
I'd like to refer to your criminal record, Mr. Tekka.
That's
been-
the incorrect name, sir.
Was it Tekki?
Tekki.
Apologize. There was no. It was. I apologize for that. So the police officers have stated that you have a previous criminal record. Is that the case?
I believe so.
Your Honor, why can't he give a certain answer? He would know, but his own record.
I don't believe the defence has access to his own personal record.
If I was put in jail, I think I would know I was put in jail.
Well, he mightn't remember how many times he's been put in jail. We can only
if he had a previous
assume.
criminal record. I asked if he had a previous criminal record. Just, I feel like something he's more than able to give certainty
He
to.
answered yes, Your Honor.
He said,
Yes.
"I believe so."
Well, he believes so. Let's move on.
When you were with this firearm just before you were arrested, did you have any ammo for that firearm on you?
No.
So why were you why did you have the firearm out if it couldn't be used for self-defense?
It's, you know, I thought it was my right.
But what self-defense are you going to be able to do when you have no ammo?
Which just scares off perpetrators.
Your Honor, there's nothing in the legislation or law that states that somebody can't look intimidating to ward off potential.
Your Honor, I never
predators.
opened that questioning. I was just simply asking.
No, I'm just stating because that's
All
what
right.
the line of questioning is
We'll
for.
continue, please.
In your questioning from your counsel, you said that you had multiple firearms. Are you able to give an approximate? No, I'm not asking for exact rough remembrance to how many firearms you may currently possess.
2 to 3.
And what type of firearms are those, or are they all the same?
They're all the same.
Do any of your own firearms possess a serial number?
I cannot recall.
The firearm that you were arrested with, and that was put into evidence. Which shop did you purchase? Or did you purchase that from Yellow Pages, like you say you sometimes do, or was that from ammunition?
I can't recall.
Did any of the officers ever behave in a way that they were targeting you?
I was actually very intimidated.
I asked targeting. I didn't say intimidation.
Well, I believe they were my fault. I don't think I understand the question.
Oh, did you feel like you were getting arrested because the fact that they wanted to use this new charge, or was it just they rocked it to a call and you just happened to be there?
Well, I
Opinion
wouldn't
as
know
a,
what
as
the
a, as a
officer
civil.
was thinking at the time. I'm
Okay,
not sure
that's
what,
fine. That's
what
fine.
answer you want from that.
Okay. So you possessed multiple firearms, as you said before. What's the need to have multiple firearms?
Like I stated, I quite often find myself getting robbed.
But what's the need for having more than one firearm?
Well, someone takes one, then I might need another one. And I've been shot at multiple times.
Give me a moment here. I'm just going to confirm my co-counsel.
Very good.
Regarding purchasing firearms, are you familiar with the serial numbers and what their use case is?
Can you clarify that question?
Like you're aware that serial number, some firearms have serial numbers, correct?
No.
Objection. That was a testifying question.
I
Yes,
was asking
sustained.
you what it is.
Rephrase.
I'll move on.
I don't
Okay,
believe that the defendant is a firearms expert.
In previous experiences when purchasing a firearm and ammunition, have you ever been asked to provide any identification?
No. Well, it depends on what you mean with that question.
Or did you hand the money and they handed you a gun, or was there some sort of questioning behind it?
Are you talking about from the shop?
Yes, ammunition. Does it verify
You-
your license?
You need to have the license on your person to be able to purchase a weapon.
You're coming up to time, Mr. Jacobs.
Yeah. The prosecution rests on this this witness, Your Honor. But once that I would like to motion something once the issue once the defendant has been dismissed.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mr. Cook. Do you have any more witnesses?
But I just have one more. Oh, that's all right, Your Honor. No more witnesses.
All right. Thank you. Right. Closing statements.
Your Honor, the prosecution would like to motion to recall Haruto based on evidence that was revealed in the previous testimony by Tekki. It's valuable and would contradicts things that he's said.
Do you have any objections, Mr. Cook?
I do, Your Honor. Both of those officers' testimony weren't really aligned either. There was a lot of contradictions between those two testimonies, so I don't think recalling them back up for another contradicting testimony is going to help this case any further.
Your Honor, it's about It's about you feel. Your Honor, if you believe that's the case, I understand if you would strike the entire rebuttal witness, but I believe it's necessary for the case, and it reveals information that was that's vital to the decision of this case.
All right, Mr. Jacobs, but you have an extremely thin line to tread on regarding this witness. If you're recalling them, you only have 3 minutes in total.
I am getting the stopwatch up, Haruto.
He's going to make his way around.
I'll start it once I start questioning.
Sergeant, you're still under the same oath.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, time has started. Sergeant Haruto, Does the police possess access to any sort of database regarding serial numbers
Yes.
of guns? Was the serial number search done on the defendant?
Yes.
And what did the results come out for that?
No results found.
And what would that indicate?
It would indicate that the gun was not registered.
Is there any serial numbers that were tied to or previously tied to the defendant?
Negative.
Has
How is
there
that
been
done?
relevance?
It's-
There's been no other cases where he's come before the court or been charged for a weapon case. So how would they have any weapons on file?
Your Honor, you're about to see in the next question. You'll exactly realise the relevance.
I'll allow it, but I will object. I will note that objection down. Thank you, Mr. Cooked. We'll see where this goes.
Those that database of firearms. How is that data? Which institution updates that data with new purchases?
The ammunition does.
Is that the ammunition gun shop?
Yes.
Have you ever had an encounter in time where someone actually did purchase a firearm for ammunition, but it was not registered in the database?
Negative.
Objection leading.
Yeah, sustained. Sorry,
Okay.
overruled. Overruled.
Oh, okay.
No, sustained. Damn it.
So
The first one. The first one.
Sustained.
Okay. Gotcha.
Rephrase.
All good. Or rephrase. Yeah. Are you aware, or have you, or had any incidents regarding problems with the serial number database?
Negative.
Actually, yeah, no,
That's
Your Honor,
the same
I
question.
would draw that question. I agree. That's
No, 1 minute.
Do unserialized firearms show up in any sort of database that's available to the police department?
Negative.
No further questions, Your Honor. Prosecution rests.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Cooked, you have 3 minutes to question the sergeant if you wish.
No questions, Your Honor. I don't want to deal with the inconsistencies of that report myself. Thank you.
Objection,
thank
Your
you.
Honor. That is slander.
If it's slander, you can deal with that later in civil court if you wish. Thank you, Sergeant. You may return to the gallery. All right, final statements from prosecution.
Thank you again, Your Honor, for the time for this court and then members of the gallery as well as opposition counsel. This case has been quite clear-cut. There was a change to case law that just happened to be close to a call that was received by dispatch through the MDT system. The members of the police unit arrived, and there was an individual brandishing a firearm. The individual was compliant as explained, and we do not dispute that matter. And he did not point the firearm at the officer, as explained by an officer. The firearm could escalate a situation, and pointing a firearm at an officer going from not being pointed at an officer can happen real quickly. The officers felt that there was a serious threat, and they had to deal with it initially and arrest him. The definition of criminal possession of a Class A firearm currently isn't concrete regarding the charge the reason we're bringing the charge. We petitioned the court to have the charge updated to reflect that it is regarding illegal firearms, nothing to do with licensing. This is based on the fact that there is a charge already existing that covers this matter regarding possessing a firearm without a license, and that there is a hole for illegal firearms to be a separate charge. As provided in the report, testimony and by all testimonies, the individual it was not disputed that the individual was brandishing a firearm. The individual, as explained by a member of the police department, has a previous criminal history with severe charges such as armed robbery. Sergeant Peruto also testified the fact that he, in his experiences, that individuals with that sort of history generally reoffend. During the testimony of the defendant, He claimed that he purchases firearms from the ammunition, which was clarified and was not disputed. In the rebuttal witness, which was necessary, clearly identified that there has been no record of any legal gun purchases through ammunition, as they are required to document their serial numbers there. This clearly contradicts and exactly what the defendant said. Whether this was a trace of memory or intentional perjury, I'm not sure.
Is that the Chief Justice?
We thank the court for its time and understanding for the interruptions and all that stuff. And yeah, the prosecution rests on this matter, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Cooked, your final statements, please, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to put forward to the courts that no leeway or consideration to the time frame for when the new definition had changed to when my client had been arrested, nor was there any indication of severe threat towards the officers. Now, the statements are inconsistent in that Tomamaku sorry if I butchered that officer's name. He did at one point during his statement say that my client was acting threatening. So it does show inconsistencies there, as well as both officers claiming inconsistency about my client's positioning when on their arrival on scene, as well as the way he was behaving and acting. The evidence submitted regarding the records is hearsay and was not submitted prior to the court hearing. So I do not see any basis or foundry to that. The assimilation of reoffence is also based on hearsay and actions that my client has not been involved in, nor have they given any sort of clear indication of how severe this apparent criminal record is, nor is this record actually provided within the evidence itself. I ask that that the judge puts into consideration the LSP did not when assessing the situation of my client under testimony. My client was arrested and charged and at first opportunity with no consideration of leniency, including adding the charge of illegal firearm, which by definition my client does not meet and is literally a clutch straw to try and find new precedent. Your Honor, I feel that while there may be sufficient evidence under one definition, there is not sufficient enough time frame for anyone within the public to learn of the new changes and come to understanding of what those changes are before the LSPD has just initiated charges. And this is something that severely needs to be looked at, as well as the understanding of how those officers are trained in understanding and reading and researching those laws and legislations and charges. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Cooked. All right, there's another case on the docket, which will now start if Mr. McCormick is going to come in from outside. My ruling on this case will be delivered when they adjourn. So the court is now adjourned.
A few minutes later.
But no time was elected, so it's not
All right, here we go.
Here he is, Your Honor.
Fantastic. All right, I'd like everyone to be quiet for this judgment. No yelling out, otherwise you'll break train of thought. Now, in the case of the State versus Randy Taylor, I believe that's correct, the last name. I do feel for the defense.
No, it's Tekki Soloman.
Tekki Soloman. Sorry, my bad. I do feel for the defense. The fact that they feel that they need to keep a firearm on their person at all times, just so they feel safe in this city, it's a shame. It could mean that the police force are either understaffed or overwhelmed. I can only speculate. The fact that firearms are out there without serial numbers is a serious problem for this city. This means that people could be getting firearms from illegal dealings or acquiring them via illegal methods, and could also be committing more crimes without any way of being traced. This shall not stand for the city that I live in. Therefore, I am making a decision to implement common law, which is named as follows. The precedent, Tamioka Graves. All firearms must have a serial number to be considered a lawfully owned weapon. I find the defendant today guilty on all charges. I do, however, authorise them a 20% reduction on time served. He is to be remanded into custody and to serve out his sentence immediately. The court is dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.